And I think quarterback has kind of been glossed over at camp. I think more so it's been talk about injuries and who's not out there. Talking about, whoa, look at these young running backs. All right, who's in this defensive secondary? Jay Ward's showing out. Whoa, and so there's been a lot of chatter, but it hasn't necessarily centered around the quarterback, and that would have been 80% of the discussion of camp had Miles Brennan not gotten hurt beforehand, which was obviously just a really disappointing thing. But it's kind of been quiet on the quarterback front, Jeremy.
Yeah, I would say so. I think everyone knows it's no secret. Max is the guy. There's really no quarterback competition up to this point, and I think his play has been consistent all throughout camp. He hasn't had high interception days. He's been taking care of the ball. He's been giving these young receivers chances to make plays on the ball, which you love to see. So I think the biggest thing that I've taken away is Garrett may be more ready than we thought going into the season. That kid he has a lot of swag, he has a lot of energy, and he has a lot of zip on his passes. I think if anything crazy did happen to Max, I have a lot more confidence than I did before going into camp than I do now.
I think that's fair, but it's Max's show, and that's where we want to start. It's crazy the change in demeanor in the curveballs that have been thrown at Max Johnson in his 2 years on campus here. He comes to LSU. You figure the quarterback is Miles Brennan on this team. You join a room that has TJ Finley in it, and y'all are competing for the backup role. And then, boom, right out of the chute with COVID interrupting everything, you get out on the field and Miles gets hurt. And we think it's pretty serious. And so at this point, now we got to figure out who the quarterback's going to be. And Ed Orgeron goes with TJ Finley, who goes out there, and against South Carolina, LSU runs the ball great. Finley throws it very admirably, plays pretty well. They win the game, and now TJ Finley's the guy. So Max has been beaten out, essentially. And then throughout the course of the next handful of games, you get tossed into the fire in games you're getting killed in. You throw a deep touchdown against Auburn. Things are looking dire against Texas A&M. He's thrown in the fire, and with some success here, some success there. Then you get thrown in against Florida and Ole Miss, and we know the story of that game. I think, obviously against Florida, completed 21 out of 36, which isn't eye-popping, but it was under control for 239 yards and 3 touchdowns. He ran for 52 and, of course, led that 9-play, 36-yard drive that Cade York capped with the field goal to win that game. And then Ole Miss, they got in a shootout, and he throws for $1 million, and Kayshawn catches 300 of them. And so at this point, you're thinking, all right, I'm back. I just won a battle there a little bit. TJ Finley transfers out after spring, but I'm back in the middle of it. And then all of a sudden, Miles gets hurt again, and you're the starting quarterback immediately at the start of camp. I think the mental gymnastics Max has had to go through for the first 2 years on campus are worth noting.
Yeah, most definitely. That's definitely an interesting journey, and I think that's the biggest thing, especially with young quarterbacks, freshman quarterbacks going on the road in the SEC. To me, that's the hardest thing you can possibly do in acts of a young freshman quarterback, and he did that at Florida, and that's something that probably no one predicted before the season that he could go into Florida and get that done. So I think that's a huge feather under Max's cap. It gave him a lot of confidence, especially going into that Ole Miss game. You kind of saw a different level from the times we saw him before playing in season action. So I think he's carried that on to this offseason, and like everyone says in the building, he's there every day, really embracing this offense, really trying to get that relationship with these young receivers because he knows he's going to have to depend on them during the season. And I'm happy for Mad Max, man. I think he's starting to have that energy, starting to let more of that personality come out, and that's what you want to see in your leader.
I want to get to that in a second here because I want to talk about your quarterback here at LSU and what that type of process was like. But for Max, I think it's fair to go back and say, yeah, he won in the swamp, but there was 10,000 people there. And, okay. And I think it's fair to come in and say Ole Miss's defense was atrocious, and LSU was 3-5 entering those 2 games and didn't have anything to play for anyway, ended up not going to a bowl game based on preference. All that's fair to say. And it's not the same as going to beat Tebow in the swamp. I get it. But it's also going to Gainesville with something in the neighborhood of 50 bodies that you had capable, and you're playing a Florida team that's trying to get into the playoff and a quarterback that could win the Heisman Trophy up to that point, and showing up and putting on the performance he did. And there's something to be said for playing against Ole Miss and knowing if you don't score a touchdown here, you're probably not going to win because your defense is giving up a touchdown just about every time down the field unless they get an interception. I mean, Ole Miss scored 40-something points in that game, and LSU had 5 picks. So, I mean, there was pressure on him to perform, and he did so very admirably in that game. Now on to the maturation into the leader and letting that personality show out. You watched a guy go from the shadows of an unbelievable team, Zach Mettenberger in 2011, where he did not play behind Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee, and then come out and show up in 2012 where there were a ton of expectations, a ton of guys back on that team, and he was expected to be the guy who made the difference. He's a quiet guy. He'd rather sit there, keep to himself, put a dip in, and listen to some music and kind of hang out. He's not a fiery rah-rah guy all the time. He's not a huge personality. He's not going to be like Baker Mayfield out there. Like He's a little more relaxed. What did you see from Mettenberger, who's a little bit more reserved, as he became the leader of that team?
Yeah, Mettenberger had a totally different approach, and I think what Met did that we really loved is it wasn't when the coaches were there watching us and doing everything. He did so many things outside of the clock schedule that were supposed to be there to really develop that relationship with Odell and Jarvis, and that's kind of something that I always tell people. The amount of work that those guys put in after hours is phenomenal to me. And Met, you never really saw him bring the team up and yell at everyone or get in someone's face. But we knew he was our team leader. We knew we went. If Met's throwing the ball, you're not going to beat us. And that's kind of what we knew. So we had all the confidence in the world in Mettenberger. And he, like I said, he had a similar event that Joe Burrow had at practice, getting in a fight with the defense. And that really just kind of made us rally around him because he didn't really have the starting job up to that point. And when we saw he had that fight in him, everyone on the offense was willing to definitely a battle with Matt.
Yeah, and so Max Johnson's shown that a little bit through camp. And when we've been out there, it's been good. I think the accuracy at times has been a little bit off, but to me, the decision-making's been good. Reading the defense has been good. He's been decisive, and I think has plenty of arm and plenty of mobility to lead a really potent offense. He doesn't have the arm of Mettenberger, but he's got some legs. He didn't have the legs of Johnny Manziel out there, but he's got enough of the package, I think, to expect him to play really, really well and to lead the offense in what they hope is going to look like, and I can't even get out look like 19 because that's just a ridiculous thing to say, but an efficient version of the diet version of 19 is just fine. You don't score 60 on Oklahoma in the first half. Just go out there and score enough points, and I really think Max is in position to do a really good job. I personally was outspoken about this and never shied away from my answer. I believed after what I saw from Miles in 2 games last year, which was very strong, excellent against Missouri, good against Vanderbilt, against Mississippi State, and then Max against Florida and Ole Miss. I believed that my preference would be that Max won that job. I thought Miles could do a very good job, and still, when he comes back from injury, maybe has more throws in him as an LSU Tiger. But I thought Max was the guy, and he now is, and I think he's going to do a good job, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think so too. That was my pick before the season, especially in this JP's offense. I think it definitely opens up everything in the RPO game. You got to keep the defense a lot more honest. And then also, they don't run it much, but they can run it. The read option stuff with Max, I think he can still run those things. And obviously, with the offensive line depth we have, when the play breaks down, he can definitely use his legs, get outside the pocket. We saw that in the Florida game. We saw that at the Ole Miss game. Get out the pocket and still be looking downfield and hit his receivers. And these receivers running with broken down plays I can't wait to see, man, because they're going to be causing some trouble for these secondaries in the SEC.
Then you mentioned this at the top, and I'll piggyback on. I too feel better about Nussmeier than I did. I think theoretically, if you had to put him in there because Max could not play or was hurt or whatever reason he wasn't out there, that he would lead the offense and they'd score some points. I also think he would make some gunslinger throws into some traffic that would be a problem.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the spring game. He threw 3 picks, and it doesn't really matter in the spring game. Try to make a play. Why not? You've been on campus for a month and a half. It's fine. But I think he would make some decisions that were iffy because of the speed of the game and his mentality of I can keep this play alive and I can do it. I mean, You watch him in practice, he's running around, he's yelling at people. He's already vocal and he's not even the team leader. So I do think they would score points. I think he would make throws. There have been times LSU had to go to a backup quarterback who they just basically had to rein it in, try to run it, and try to get out of Dodge alive and let the defense win it. In this age of college football, that would be very difficult to do. I don't think that would necessarily be the case, but I think he would turn it over.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, especially with quarterbacks with that play style. Like I call him Baby Baker Mayfield, just running around trying to make those gunslinger throws, throw it in tight windows. Bad things happen, especially with the elite athletes that play in this conference. So I think they can rein him in a little bit. I think I definitely have a lot more confidence in him going into the future because watching that spring game, it left a lot to be desired. So you really didn't know what you're going to get with him. But I think they've reined him in a lot more. They kind of got him into the offense, kind of know where he should be looking and what he should be doing with it. And I love a quarterback with confidence, so I'll be cheering for that kid for sure.
And there was a day where you came into college as a quarterback and you had been running the veer at West Monroe, or you'd been toss diving at somewhere else, and you had to learn to play quarterback at this level. These guys don't have to make that adjustment. They've been playing 7-on-7. They've been slinging it all over the place. They've been watching film, especially these two guys with the pedigrees they come from with NFL dads. These guys are more mentally ready to play than quarterbacks were 15 years ago when they stepped on the field. Look, do you want to put a true freshman out there? No. LSU had to do it twice last year, and you saw they went 5-5. It's not ideal, but I do think that day has changed. You've got the ability to go to some younger players, and so LSU's quarterback room is young with Miles Brennan out, but I think has a lot of promise for the future, and I think can lead very, very potent offense. I'm not very concerned about the quarterback spot. I mean, if I had to put your level of concern, 10, we have no quarterback, and 1, 2, Burrow's back for his 5th year, and we're going to win the Heisman. Where are you on your concern?
I'd say probably a 2 or 3, not very high. Maybe I'm over high on Max. I'm just really high on him. I think he can have an all SEC, all American type season just because of what they have around him. If it was just him out there, then I'd kind of be a little worried. But I think Jack Bass is going to make some plays. I think these young receivers are going to make some plays. These young running backs. He has an offense around him, man. That's what you need as a quarterback, especially in this offense. So I'm super high on Max, man. I believe in him. And
that's the deal. If the offensive line keeps these guys upright, they're gonna score some points. I'm just telling you, I don't have concerns about that. The weapons are out of control.